Robert Fico's Smer party is the narrow front-runner in Slovakia's upcoming parliamentary elections. He has promised to end military support for Ukraine.
We will not send a single bullet to Ukraine from the country's reserves.
Slovakia has until now been a strong supporter of Ukraine, donating its fleet of Soviet-era MiG-29 fighter jets and an S-300 air defense system. Fico says such support prolongs the war. He opposes sanctions on Moscow and says he would block Ukraine from joining NATO.
Why don't we force the warring parties? Use the weight of the EU and the US to make them sit down and find some sort of compromise that would guarantee security for Ukraine.
Fico's party is polling around 18%, not enough to give him an outright victory. He has served as Slovakia's prime minister twice before. Fico was forced to resign in 2018 after the slaying of investigative journalist Jan Kuciak and his fiancée Martina Kuznierova prompted mass protests. Since then, Slovakia has had 4 different prime ministers in 5 years. Fico appears to have regained his support, partly on the back of his calls to end support for Ukraine.
Slovakia has historically had quite a large portion of the society with pro-Russian sentiments.
Fico has tied support for Ukraine to Slovakia's economic problems.
So just to give you an example, by providing military support to Ukraine, we are taking security guarantees from Slovakia. By providing financial support to Ukraine, we're taking money from Slovaks who need it more, right?
Fico sees Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orbán as a future ally in taking on NATO and the European Union over Ukraine, say analysts.
I think he is not brave enough to become a single dissident. But now that he's got Orbán, he's got a solid point to adhere to. So he will join Orbán. He has become very authentically pro-Russian and spreads Russian narratives.
In several other Western countries, populist parties skeptical of the West's support for Ukraine enjoy significant support.
I'm afraid it might cause a bit of a domino effect, especially in countries that are awaiting elections. And I mean, we're already seeing in Poland that the issue of support is Ukraine is being brought up.
Polling just behind Fico is the Progressive Slovakia Party, which is strongly pro-Western and supports military aid for Ukraine. Analysts say coalition negotiations will be difficult for any party, and the elections are unlikely to end Slovakia's political turmoil. Henry Ridgwell, VOA News, London.